game Papercuts. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name is Walkstars, and welcome to the premiere edition of Papercuts, a Deathnote Recap Podcast. As I said, my name is Walkstars, and I am incredibly privileged to be joined by my very good friend, Ollie here. He's on my left, but you wouldn't know it because he's obviously not sitting right beside me. But, Ollie, why don't you make yourself known?
Hi, I'm Ollie, Scott's buddy. This show is pretty brand new. Fresh concept, 2 weeks old. Pretty cool.
Yeah. It's amazing how much you can sort of put together in a very short period of time. Basically, we were hanging out at a buddy's place. No, it was here. It was at my place. It was here.
Yeah.
And we were just chatting about how, like, oh, this would be a lot of fun to do. And I was thinking, I have literally just been waiting to have a co-host to put something like this together. I reached a point where I can't do it by myself. I need help. And sure enough, this beautiful man walks into my kitchen and says, around the table while we're playing Magic, oh my God, I would love to start a podcast. And I turn to him and I say, you really?
Do it.
And about a week and a half later, here we are.
Yeah.
So what has been your impressions with the Deathnote series before we started the show?
Deathnote is pretty interesting because watching it when I was way younger, simple-minded, more dumber than now. So I'm like, oh, this is cool. Things happen when he does this. But when you're older and you watch it, you're like, you have the eyes, like when you're in the bus and you see this guy, like, this is someone I don't want to sit beside with. You kind of had that gut feeling now. So you see it in a different light. And rewatching it at my current age and after all life experiences, you're like, oh, okay. Oh, I did not see that. Oh, mother of God. Oh, yeah, I was like that for a good 80 minutes when I was watching episodes 1 to 4. I was like, huh. Yeah, a lot of sighs, a lot of like rude awakenings. Like,
Absolutely.
Yeah,
So we'll be recapping episodes 4 at a time, starting from episode 1 all the way up to episode 47. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
So we're doing 4 episodes at a time. At least that's the plan. We're going to see how long this runs this week, just because this is the first time we're doing this. I kind of pulled the number 4 out of my butt just because it kind of made sense. It sort of gives you an idea.
Also, I think it's a good PSA as well. I mean, people who's listening to this probably likes anime as well. I do encourage you to support the artist. Watch it through legitimate channels and stuff like that. It helps them. It funds them to create more for us to consume as well. I mean, it's an art form. No judgment on what you like. As long as you're supporting people like them, they continue to strive in improving their art for us as well. So let's be a part of a healthy community as well.
It's on Netflix. If it's there, it's right there. It's waiting for you to watch right now. And you know what? If you want to watch along with us, that would be fantastic. Maybe down the line. I don't want to get you too excited, but maybe down the line we can have like watch along parties on the Discord server, on the Star Zone Discord. I got to figure out how that works. Maybe there's something we can do with that down the line. But right now, we've just watched episodes 1 to 4. But before we get into the recaps, Ollie, tell me about the history that you dug up about this show.
Okay, Deathnote. So, funny thing, this started as a light novel. The light novel came in earlier, back in 2001. But the original run for the manga was 2003. That was like, what, 20 years ago, right? So there's a beautiful man, Japanese man named Sugumi Oba. He's the one who wrote the story for this manga and light novel as well. Pretty unique during its day and age. And then he has Takeshi Obata, who was the one doing the artwork for this one. They were under Shonen Jump. Japan, we all know, like in general, they always come up with these weird ideas. Like, let's say Battle Royale, way before Hunger Games came out. So this is a pretty unique take on anime, because back then anime was flooded with, like, let's say we all grew up with Dragon Ball and Yu Yu Hakusho, Hunter X, One Piece. It's all adventure, but this genre touches like the darker side of human nature.
Well, and what's crazy is, like, with the subject matter, is that it was published in Shonen Jump alongside
Exactly.
Dragon Ball, alongside One Piece, alongside Yu Yu Hakusho, and it
That's
goes places that you wouldn't expect from a typical shonen manga. And you know what? This is going to be okay. This is my hot take of the show.
Oh, I want to hear this. Go.
Death Note ran so Chainsaw Man could walk. Wait, I got that backwards. Death Note walked so Chainsaw Man could run in Shonen Jump.
They could.
Like, in terms of just subject matter, in terms of like the types of things that were being talked about in or what was considered acceptable in a shonen series.
Is Attack on Titan on Shonen Jump?
Let
me look that up.
I'm not sure.
It is not. It is not a Shonen Jump publication.
Oh, it's on the app. If you wanted to read if you wanted to read Death Note instead of watch it, which is something we should absolutely recommend as well. If you don't have the Shonen Jump app, you can get it. It's like $3. It's like $3 a month. It's worth it.
Worth it.
100% worth it. They've got.
If you have a tablet, 10 out of 10 would recommend.
Yeah, 100%. So do you have more on the history of the publication?
All right. So
I'm sorry,
the manga run from December 2003 up to May 2006. So 3 years, they only have 12 volumes. So the volumes are pretty packed. Like, mangas are not like the comic books that we know in the Western world. Like, they're pretty big. The panels are huge, colored, and they're thin. But this one, pretty substantial. So anime for this one, 37 episodes. It's not as grand as Dragon Ball Z or One Piece or Bleach. I think Bleach before the 1,000-Year Blood Arc runs for 250 episodes, if I'm not mistaken. It's pretty
Something
good.
Like that.
This is short and sweet
and that's what made it that's kind of why it was kind of a no-brainer for it to be one of the first shows we cover.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's something that enables us to get our feet wet, get a schedule started. It's only 47 episodes, so it's only going to be maybe 13 weeks for us to go through the whole thing. This podcast isn't going to be, this show right now in its current form is not going to be, something super long that you got to keep up with for every single week.
True.
If in 15 weeks you want to binge the whole series and the podcast along with it, fantastic. You're going to have a great time. We're going to have a great time. You're going to see the show evolve. You're going to see us evolve. We're going to grow together as a community, and this is going to be a ton of fun.
Yes.
And one last thing before we get into the show proper, what do you have on the production of the anime?
Okay. So the anime is made by
it was Studio Madhouse, wasn't it?
It is Madhouse, but right now it's not on Crunchyroll. I'm a Crunchyroll subscriber. For some reason, it's not there. You know how licenses work now, they move around. Mm-hmm. This one, it started airing back in 2007.
Mm-hmm.
So
was it on? It was on Adult Swim.
Oh, sorry. It was on Cartoon Network. If I'm not mistaken. Okay. I think back then Cartoon Network and Adult Swim was together, right?
I'd have to brush up on my history of TV.
Like I'm just running this off memory. Like I remember when I was younger, you would turn on Cartoon Network, and then they have an anime section during the night, and then Adult Swim, Aqua Teen Hunger Force, the meatball
Right.
guy.
Yep.
Love that
Yep.
guy.
Yep. That would be okay. Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah. Was
that
it?
was the adults.
Was it aired on Toonami?
Yes, Tsunami.
Okay.
Tsunami. Yeah,
Okay.
it's pretty. So it was pretty accessible in the West. I think it was dubbed back then. Uh, Again, for our friends who watch a lot of anime, saying that watching anime in dub is a mortal sin. Some people don't have the choice.
Yeah.
They just got
Here.
dealt with it, but still the same thing. It's still good. And
Here on
hey, kudos
Papercuts,
to kudos to
it's more
the voice
important.
actors. We
Yeah.
support them.
Here on Papercuts, it's more important that you enjoy the show than how you enjoy the show.
Exactly. So yeah,
Do you want to?
so
Do you want to get into the voice
it
cast?
didn't really run a lot. They
Okay.
had a movie adaptation. They have a Netflix movie. I haven't watched it.
Oh my God! You haven't seen it?
Scott is already laughing.
Oh
I wanted to
man.
watch it, but
Okay.
since you're
Okay.
laughing, I'm gonna
Okay.
give it a go
Okay.
this weekend.
Okay. I'm gonna say don't.
Okay, and
Uh, and that's due to well,
it's just Dragon Ball Z American movie level kind of stuff.
no, it's got a higher budget. Um,
Oh,
the the acting is fine.
okay.
Um, but they take some liberties that
Would you spend money to go to the movies to watch it?
no,
Damn, that was quick.
no, I would not. The only reason I watched it was because it was on Netflix, and I think I was just bored one night. Um,
Did it at least cure the itch of boredom?
at least what?
Did it at least cure your boredom, or were you just
Yeah, it
frustrated?
was cool. The effects were good, and uh,
Okay, one more question. Was the guy was the protagonist's name still Light Yagami? Please tell me it is.
the protagonist's name is Light Turner.
What?
Not saying anything more. Moving on. So,
Oh.
episode 1 of
Okay,
Death
let's hit
Note
the episodes.
opens up with a bang. Now we're not talking about this anymore until the end of the show. Maybe we'll do a watch along for the Netflix movie.
Episode
But
1.
we're not.
Yeah, I'm gonna give it a watch though.
Nope.
This weekend.
We're not talking about it anymore tonight.
Okay.
So,
Cool.
let's kick it off with that. Oh man, that OP, that opening song. Oh, every time it kicks in, you know that
I hope we can like play like a small segment of it.
we will eventually. You know what gives you a reason to tune into the show after the show and to check it out on the YouTube is that the entrance to the podcast is actually a segment of the song. So that's what that is.
Fun fact: the name of the song is "The World," sang by the band called Nightmare. So, fun fact: they would use that intro episode 1 to 19, and then they would
change
swap
intros
to a different one. Yeah.
So we'll get to that, and I'm stoked for that as well. But the soundtrack in general, like, okay, is it just me or were like anime around that time? They had like a set amount of like they had a happy song, an intrigue song, and a sad, scary song.
It's like a palette, dude. Like
it was.
Ooh,
like
creepy.
I use Yu Yu Hakusho as an example.
Yes.
In that they always played the same foreboding music in every single episode and every single time.
I'm trying to recall it.
But it's the same idea. And you're going to find that in this series. Now, the soundtrack is, as the kids say, a bop through the whole series. But that intro, I refuse. Whenever I'm watching a series,
the
I'll watch
intro.
I'll watch the
like,
first. episode all the way through, intro included, but then I'll start skipping intros. And then on the last episode of the series, I'll watch it all the way through, including the intro. For this show, I'm not skipping the intro. Not once. I'm going through it. I'm just going to rock out to it every single time. And it's going to get stuck in my head. And it's going to be great.
And then you're going to do the post in the end lying down in the bed.
I might.
Hate that face so
Stay
much.
tuned to my Instagram. There might be a picture like that turns up. I'm not going to say when, and I'm not going to say how clothed I'll be. It might turn up. Maybe if we hit a sub, we should set a sub goal for that.
You know what? If there's a sub goal, by all means, we're not jack dudes, so we'll never make it to a firefighter's calendar. But on a Papercut calendar,
sir.
we'll do it. We'll do it,
sir.
I'll do it.
So, you can't see it, but I wrote like 5 pages of notes just for the first
episode
4
1.
Episodes. No, for the first 4 episodes.
Okay.
I wrote a page and a half for episode 1. Wow. So let's just see what I got here. I don't know if you noticed this. Okay, so the first episode is called. The first episode is called Rebirth, and it basically follows our main character, whom we haven't met yet, in his first experiences with the Death Note. And so, I don't know if you noticed this, but our main character, who's only referred to as Yagami, his first words are reading from a religious text.
Yep.
And if that's not a little bit of foreshadowing,
it is 100%.
And so the man, and the way that he talks about it, the way that he talks about the world, he's like, it's brutal, and how he's like talking about how everything's going to hell and it's just rotting from the inside out.
That's how he read it.
Which is the way that he's experiencing it. For the next thing in my notes, it just says, that soundtrack though, exclamation mark, all caps. But we've already spoken about the soundtrack, so we're not going to get into it.
Yeah, it's a banger.
Did you notice that there was a tiny little scream when he first picks up the Death Note?
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Okay, cool. I'm glad I wasn't crazy.
There was
okay. So for those of you, so if you're not aware, the story of Death Note follows Light Yagami, who happens upon a notebook that says that when the human whose name is written in this book will die, and everything kind of just spreads from there.
Well, let's give this name a face. Okay, so like Yagami, 17, 18-year-old,
he's
going to high school
senior.
Yeah, high school senior, smart dude,
like smartest in the country.
Yeah, he's number one. He's number one in Japan. So this guy is good looking, smart, probably jacked. Dad.
Well, he is athletic, which we find out later.
I'm pretty sure he's jacked. You know, he's a chat. You know, like he has this BDE aura going about him. Like,
I'm sorry, he has this what aura?
BDE. It's up to the listeners.
I'm not as much of a weeb as you. What is
Big Dick?
Oh yes, yes, of course.
He's someone that when you see in the hallway, he'll be like, "Hey, bud, how's it going? You cool? You cool? I got you. Hey, what's going on?
Like,
you need help? Let's go, baby." He's your go-to guy. Like nobody hates this guy.
Yeah,
the impression. He's like that guy in school. Like everyone loves this. Everyone likes this guy. Admires this guy. He's like your textbook perfect teenager dream child for a parent.
Yeah,
he's that. But again, first episode, like Scott said, it kicks off like he's in the classroom. you know, I think it was trying to highlight the mundane things he does daily.
And
Go to
how
school.
his attitude is to it too.
Yeah, he's
Like
not
how
impressed. He's
bored
bored.
he is.
He's bored.
So he's looking out the window. He's just read from his textbook. Teacher's like, "Oh, that was perfect." He's like, "Yeah, I know it was perfect. Hello, I'm me."
Pretty
And he's
smug.
looking out the window, and suddenly he notices this black notebook falling from the sky, lands in the yard. Nobody notices it. Nobody cares. So after class, he makes his way out. He picks up the notebook. There's a scream in the background, and it just says Death Note across it. He opens the book and says, "The person whose name is written in this book will die." Well, that's a weird prank. Must be like one of those chain letters.
Dude, the moment he said that chain letter thing, I felt old. It was
You're right.
one of those chain emails. I'm like, oh.
Yeah,
And also, did you ever wonder, like, is he the only guy who saw that notebook falling down from nowhere?
I
Like,
guess so. Or
I'm like,
nobody else cared, or nobody else thought anything of it.
hey man,
It's
something
pretty
falling down from
contrived.
that
Let's
high,
be
I would
real.
care. Like, ooh, what's this? Ooh,
Let's be real. It's pretty contrived that like
that is
a
true.
lot of the things that lead to this.
There's a lot of supernatural thingies going on, and then he
And
might be the
so
only one who can see it.
doesn't believe that it's happening, doesn't believe it's real. Takes the book home anyway cuz he's bored. What else is he going to do? And so he's watching TV, he's watching the news while he studies, and he finds out about this like hostage situation that's going on at a local, was it a
No,
shopping mall?
he walked away first from the notebook.
Right. And then it flashes to him like
And then
having gone back to pick it up,
it's just
which
like
is
I'm not
pretty
gonna
great.
believe this BS. This is like 90s chain email BS. I'm not gonna touch
Right.
this. And then he was like, you know what?
Uh,
If this
yeah, I'm
works,
gonna take it.
it's gonna be cool. But I'm not hoping it's gonna work. Went back, grabbed it.
And
And
so
then Scott, picking it
he's
up
at
from where
home.
you left, got
He's at
home.
home. He's watching the news, and he finds out about this hostage situation that's going on in a is it a
Nursery.
school? Nursery. Okay, so it's like a preschool.
Guy's a dick. You're gonna go to a preschool and no, you don't touch them
There's
kids.
well, as Light has said, this world is rotten.
Yep.
So, you know, there's that. So there's that, and then so they show the guy's name on this. They show the guy's name and his face, and in the death note it says you have to know the name of the person, and you have to have a picture of their face in your mind. And if you don't write anything else, the person whose name you wrote will simply die of a heart attack within 40 seconds of you writing their name in the death note.
By
So he writes the
default.
guy's by default. So he writes the guy's name. And he's like, okay, well, I guess we'll just see if this happens.
It's like, hey, let's this guy's name here.
20 seconds go by, nothing happens. 30 seconds go by, nothing happens. 40 seconds go by, nothing happens. 43 seconds go by. Oh, we've just got breaking news that the children are coming out and everybody's unharmed. And the guy, the kidnapper, the hostage man, the guy who took the hostages, dead of a heart attack. He just collapsed, clenched his heart and collapsed.
Hey, congratulations!
Holy
You just did
crap.
your first murder, bud.
Congratulations, you're a murderer.
And funny thing is, he still doesn't buy it, dude.
Well, that's just it. And so he doubts that it actually works. And so he's like,
what do you do if it doesn't work the first time?
I gotta test it one more time.
Yeah.
I have to kill again. And so he's on his way to cram school. And after and again, this is so contrived. I remember reading this in the manga. And I remember when this happened.
Before we continue, I think this has to be said. Just a warning for our listeners who's sensitive, because the next things we're going to talk about touches sexual assault.
Yeah.
Like the anime is very graphic.
There is
Just a
concerned.
heads up
Yeah,
warning on that part of the show. So
yeah,
you've been warned. Go
yeah.
ahead, Scott.
We we can't say the R word.
Yep.
I'm just telling that right now.
Yep.
But so he's finished up at cram school. I guess cram school is a thing they have where it's like extra school after your school.
It is. Because how the educational system back there is, your future depends heavily on your university where you get in. So let's say you need to take this exam. Before you can take that exam, you have to be like the upper 5% of your class.
So only
Then,
the upper 5, and the only way to get that upper 5% is to put in the extra work.
no, this is the thing. So you're already the upper 5%, right? Now you're allowed to take the exam on that school. So you have to study more.
Right.
It's
Okay.
that cutthroat.
So our pal Yagami, who we find out his name is Light after his mom calls up to him. Ironic naming. You'll find out why. Goes to cram school, finishes up at cram school. He's walking home. He's walking home, and he goes to a convenience store he's looking at a comic book after he sees some bikers go by, and they start to harass a young lady who's walking down the street. They threaten to get grapey.
Yep.
And
Not
so
in
Like's
the,
like,
not even hiding it.
nope,
Straight up.
just straight up. She's screaming. Nobody's doing anything about it. And so he's like reading a magazine in the
Let me
convenience
show you
store.
what Buddy looks like behind the glass of the convenience store. He's like this.
So Ollie is currently just looking at a book, looking up from his book. Nothing going on.
Yep.
And this
Buddy
biker
just
guy. Okay.
Hey,
I'm sorry.
something's going down.
Okay, look, if you're going to do something stupid, you probably shouldn't introduce yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And so he says,
Right. Yeah.
and so he says his name. I can't remember what his name is right now.
Let's call him D-bag number one. So there were like
D-bag number one.
Four of those guys. So D-bag 1 to 4, D-bag number 1. Hey, my name's D-bag number 1. Let's go, baby. Hang out with me. So baby girl was like, nah. Not happening, G. But D-bag 1, my name's D-bag 1. I'm biggest D-bag. Let's go. Girl still no. Force his way.
Light writes his name.
Heard
hit
it.
by a truck.
And?
Or sorry, no, damn it. I gave it away. Okay, so Light's looking up. And he says, okay, anytime now. And as the guy goes to bike away to do something, this truck just comes out of nowhere and just smacks him.
Truck-coon.
Oh. And I remember reading this in the manga, like when I was a child, and thinking to myself,
you read this as a child?
Yeah, I did. It was at camp. Don't ask.
Oh, okay.
It's just, I can tell the story another time.
Oh.
And being like kind of confused. Like, where'd he go? And then I realized as I was like, yeah, he's gone, dead, under the truck, exploded by the truck, all that gory stuff, which the anime does like in a non-gross way.
No, man, it's gross.
Like but it's so maybe I'm just desensitized now, but it's so like sudden.
Yeah.
Anyway,
best thing. So what did D-Bag's one buddies do?
They called him.
They called him an idiot. Like,
yeah,
yo, your buddy just died. Well, yeah, that idiot. Like, oh.
Yeah, he can't hear you now.
He's not wrong.
Yeah, but I suppose not.
But he did.
And so that's when Light realizes, oh my god, the Deathnote works.
So, murder number 2. We should make a drinking game. Every time Buddy kills a guy using the Deathnote, we should like do a drink.
No, we'll die.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it flashes now back to the Shinigami realm, which I didn't remember this when I first watched the show. It flashes back to the Shinigami realm, and this was something that I thought was really interesting. You hear the Shinigami talking, and they said, "How did Ryuk con the old man into giving him another Death Note?"
I think it was mentioned somewhere down the line. I can't
Okay,
remember, but I'm pretty sure it was mentioned.
because this Shinigami
Oh,
through
we didn't talk about how the Death Note ended up in the human realm. So,
okay,
like,
yep, go for it.
quick flashback. Shinigami's hanging out in the Death world, so Shinigami
Shinigamis are
Death
death
God.
gods.
So,
Before we continue, Shinigami, death god, they're going to be used interchangeably.
yeah. So look at it this way. These are like your, textbook death guys, hood, sight, but different flavors. One guy looks like, more of an Asian type death god. And then
Hot
you got
topic.
like this guy
Hot
wrapped in,
topic Grim Reapers.
yeah, like, Hot Topic Grim Reapers, exactly. That's what they are. So all they do there is gamble and sleep. So buddy
Yeah.
here, Ryuk, so he has a death note. So each god has a death note, right? So what they do is they write a person's name there, so they die, and whatever remaining lifespan of that person who died gets transferred to them. So they're
We
bored as
haven't found
hell.
that out
So
yet.
Ryuk was like, I'm
We haven't found
gonna
that
drop
out yet.
this death note.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's where Light found it.
So it was initially for shits and giggles. So one bored demon, one bored Hot Topic death god. He literally looks like a demon from Hot Topic.
Yep.
With the fashion, like all those chains. Yeah.
Yep.
Bored death god drops notebook picked up by bored Giga Chad. And we're here now. Murder number 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So one thing I learned after watching these episodes was that I think that boredom is the most powerful force in the universe.
Dude. Saying idle minds is the devil's playground, bud.
Whew, they weren't kidding.
No, they ain't.
And so now it flashes forward 5 days later, and Light has already killed a ton of people.
I wish we can show them a screenshot of the notebook. Like how many names.
So he's filled. Okay. This notebook,
full,
but like that, but
full.
all instead of notes about about a cartoon, it's names of criminals.
Yep. Oh, we forgot to mention. So after that, incident with the D-bag one getting run over by the truck, he went home. Remember the scene? His mom was waiting for his test results, right?
She's so proud of her boy.
So Chad Coon, I'm gonna call it like Chad Coon. So Chad Coon nonchalantly, oh, here's my test results, Mom.
Oh yeah,
oh, my son, you're number 1. Yeah, I know. I'm like, do you know how hard I work to get an F? And you're here telling your mom I know I'm number 1? I feel attacked, dude. The things I did for an F, a D.
Oh man, I don't.
And then this guy's like number 1, like
deuces. I'm out.
Chef's kiss. This guy. Anyways, he's a smug Chad Coon, and that happened, and then yeah.
So he's in his room.
Oh,
so Light's in his room. It's raining out. Thunder and lightning.
Very, very frightening.
Who should show up? But the best character in this entire series, our Death God protagonist. Let's be honest, he's the protagonist of the show.
He could be a model for Hot Topic, I'll be honest, man.
Ladies and gentlemen, with bug-eyed and sharp teeth.
Hot Topic God, Death God.
Ryuk. That's R-Y-U-K-K for you keeping track of this at home. So he shows up and shows that Light has kind of already fallen off the deep end with all of the names he's written in his Death Note already. Light is not only shocked, so Light is shocked that he gets to keep the Death Note. That Ryuk's just like, nah, B, it's yours. I don't want it. It's got your human germs on it. It now belongs to you. Um, and also lets him know that from the moment you picked up that Death Note,
That's you,
your
baby.
your soul is doomed
Oh
to
yeah.
an eternity of undying
Yeah, you can't go up, you can't go down, but he never mentioned where you're going.
It's true. Well, he did. You're right. He did say that. He did not say that. But
He
you
says
cannot go up. You can't
you
go
can't
down.
go down. But he
But
never
now you're
but
boned. Your
but being a
soul is
Chad, he
boned.
never asked where he's going.
That's true. He doesn't care. He's super focused on the now. That's
Zero
something we can
apps were
absolutely
given.
say about him.
What a Chad.
And so, uh, so Light already has wild delusions of grandeur. Goes off on a whole tirade about how he's going to be the god of the new world by eliminating anybody he deems to be unjust and corrupt and removing evil from the world. And
You know what's the funny thing about that when he said that when he was talking to this Hot Topic god?
yep.
Even though Ryuk is from Hot Topic, he's forgetting the god part. This dude's a god, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah,
And
he's a
then
death god.
but yeah, and then Buddy, being a Chad that he is, proclaiming he's gonna be a god. So I'm like, man, I
Funny.
don't know.
Is that
Yeah, I don't know how
foreshadowing?
big.
That
I
feels
don't
like
know, man.
foreshadowing.
No, I don't know. I just feel like he needs a wheelbarrow for his cojones, just to say that I'm gonna be a god of this new. I'm like, buddy, you're talking to
Bro,
like
you
a
are
real
talking.
god, like buddy, Hot Topic god. You're a Chad. How? I mean, I'm impressed. At the same time, like he's the guy you like, but you're just pissed at look in his face. Like he's really smug. Like, ooh.
And so, one last thing that I want to cover in this episode is the flashback to those 5 days when it shows Light. And this is the Sakuga of this series. So, Sakuga, if you're unaware, is when like your battle scenes in anime shows. It's your like everything if you're watching a show or a movie and all of a sudden what you're watching looks way better than the rest of the show, that's called Sakuga. That's the term for it. And the
Oh,
Sakuga in this show is always like really well filmed writing scenes. And we're going to get to an
yeah.
episode later down the
Oh,
line next week that's going to blow your mind if you
yep.
haven't seen it. And if you know the scene I'm talking about, you're going to know exactly what
It's
this
glorious.
scene is. Episode 2, Confrontation. Now, I'm still not going to skip this opening. It's way too good. Now, I don't think, based on his moral convictions, that Light is a sociopath. He's definitely more along the lines of megalomania. And I love that Light once again reads in class another line about justice or about duty or like about something like that, about God or religion or something.
Yeah.
And so he's also become like extra conscious of Ryuk. So because Ryuk owned the Death Note previously, he has to follow Light around. He is now chained to Light essentially until
He
either the
dies.
notebook finishes or Light dies.
Yeah.
So there's that.
It's
Um,
funny. It's funny that you mentioned that. Like, everyone knows the old saying that power corrupts, right?
yep,
It
yep.
really
An
does.
absolute
And
power
then
corrupts absolutely.
and then he says it's gonna be justice. Like, let's be real, like in a real world situation, let's say like back then in World War I or II, both side would pray to whatever being
Oh,
they pray to, like, oh God, vanquish my enemies. Same thing with the other side. Oh God, vanquish my enemies, right?
mm-hmm.
Because, justice is sometimes arbitrary, which is the sad truth. But,
Absolutely.
we're talking about Chad here. Apparently he's going to be a god. Hmm. Anyways, continue, Scott.
And so he's become extra conscious of Ryuk. Righteous purpose to him is more important than anything else, but he's still planning on how can he stay on top of his class, because like he hasn't totally lost it yet. This is only episode 2. Also, it turns out that Light is a sister, which kind of humanizes him a little bit. But that's when we learn that if anybody touches the Death Note, they will immediately see Ryuk and they will immediately know what's going on, which kind of a surprise to Light. So that's interesting. We didn't
remember. Keep
we
that mechanic in mind.
Yeah.
Like
and
whenever
finally,
somebody touches it.
And finally, the police are getting involved. So we see that there's a meeting of a whole bunch of different police from on an international level. I'm not sure what ICPO means.
International Criminal Police Organization.
Oh, I'm so glad you did the research. And so we finally get introduced to L. L is the best detective in the world. He's arrogant and only takes cases that he's interested in.
He doesn't get assigned.
He does not get assigned. He's that good. He's kind of like Sherlock Holmes.
And also to mention on that episode, it's really good if you see the episode how the other agencies discuss, like, 50 dudes die of heart attack, and this might be a coincidence.
But L's already putting it together, which is so cool.
So these guys are fumbling around, but our buddy,
he's already started.
This is the type of chat that I like, the low key chat.
Yeah.
He's been on it.
Sigma grind.
He's already on it. Like, dude, it's a letdown. Like the world, when you put the word international before something, it means like, oh, damn, you work on a global level. So we have this global level cops fumbling around, and then we got Chad L here. He's like, oh, this is what's happening. I'm like, hey.
Or
okay,
you get incredible amounts of bureaucracy.
Yep.
So after we've introduced L, we don't know anything about him. We just know he's an incredible detective. We see Light's new precautions for the Death Note, and this is pretty smart.
Oh, you have to tell them how L appears.
Oh yeah, he's a sign, just a letter on the screen by Watari, who is his handler, I guess. Basically, he is L's contact with the outside world, and he just shows up as the letter L on a screen.
Yep.
Actually, and that font that the letter L is on the screen is the background image of this podcast.
Yes.
And so he immediately knows that this is a major murder case, and based on the people who have died, and based on, because let's keep in mind, L is starting at 0.
Yep.
He has no preconceived ideas, literally based only on who was killed,
where they were,
and the times that they were, and the times they died. He immediately knows that it's happening in Japan.
Oh, and it's happening. He was murdering worldwide. It's like,
okay, yes, it was.
Yeah, Mr. Worldwide murderer.
And so he knows. Basically, he has a sense of what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
So then we see Light's new precautions for keeping the Death Note safe. Now this goes to show us how smart Light can be in terms of like mechanical skill. So not only is he book smart, not only is he a perfect student, not only is he, well, we find out more about his romantic abilities later, but he's also like pretty sciencey and like pretty
Man,
good with his hands.
I bet when he takes a dump, his shit is like a perfect cylinder. He's that perfect.
No, it's a perfect
It's a
spiral.
perfect cylinder. It's a perfect spiral. He's that
So
good.
the thing that and what's it's when I first saw this, I was like, oh, that's really smart. False bottom in the drawer with an electric wiring around the base. So if somebody can figure out that it's a false bottom and they lift it up, it'll set off a small explosion that burns the Death Note immediately.
Yep.
And the way to get in is by putting a pen, like the inside of a pen, up through a tiny hole to pop out the bottom to keep that spark, to keep that connection from happening.
There's a contact.
Yeah. So we see that. Excuse me. We see that. It's pretty cool. It's pretty smart. And it makes sense that it's something that he would come up with.
You know what? Thinking about it right now, it makes me feel like he doesn't give a shit about his house burning down.
No.
Wow.
No, not even a little bit. He only can't. It seems like he only. It seems like. It still seems like he cares about his family, though.
By burning down his own house?
A small explosion wouldn't burn down the house.
I hope not.
Well, anyway, whatever. Point is, it would destroy the Death Note. He's doing it to cover his butt. And so L now is decided to go for a direct confrontation. Now remember, this is episode 2.
Yep.
So sit back and I'm gonna describe how this goes down. So people have started talking about Kira. They've started referring to this person who is killing all of these criminals as Kira. Now again, the police aren't sure that these deaths are all connected, but the people know. That sense of internal intuition, we'll say cultural intuition, knows that something's going on. Somebody's passing judgment, and word spreads fast online, which is something we can definitely have a conversation on at some point. And so the world, so there's a worldwide broadcast of L addressing the situation and directing it specifically at Kira, saying that, hey, look, I know you're here in Japan. He's on camera. L is on camera with a tag in front of him that says Lind L. Taylor.
National TV broadcast.
He says to him, hey, Kira, I don't know who you are, but I'm going to find you. I'm going to take you down. And Light's just like, whoa, buddy, you're an idiot.
I'm going to get you.
He says you are not God, you are not a judge, and you are not an executioner. I'm going to find you, and I'm going to bring you to justice.
Mind you, this guy is portraying himself as a cop.
Exactly. And so Light is just like, oh, buddy, if you only knew, watch this. Boom, 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 boom. Writes in big letters across the page. Lind L. Taylor. And waits.
40 seconds done.
40 seconds pass. Suddenly, Lind L. Taylor grips his chest and falls over dead. At this point, Light's stoked. Oh my god, I won. Haha, you suck. I rule. All that stuff. And then the L comes up on screen.
Surprise.
Wow. I didn't think you could actually do that. I didn't think... So it turns out you don't have to be near somebody to kill them. And all you need is a face and a name. Also, joke's on you, pal. I know where you are. Because I only broadcasted this in Kanto, in Japan. Not
Kanto
worldwide.
Region. You're in Kanto, baby.
So now I know you can kill with a name and a face. All you need is a face and a name. And I know you're in Kanto. And you might just say... Now I wrote this down. you might just say that Light has got to take the L.
He couldn't take the L, man.
So Light's furious. End of
Yeah.
episode.
Yeah, but the funny thing is, on this episode, he did not, he didn't have an idea that this guy's a cop. Like, it's an actual
No.
death row inmate that was meant to be executed on that day as well.
Yes.
So, Buddy here posed as a cop. Light Chad here, just straight up murdered him. Thinking like, I was like, didn't even cross your mind, Bud, that that's a cop that's just doing his job? I mean,
Nope.
kind of shitty, Bud.
He became more focused on winning, more focused on whatever that means, whatever winning means.
Yeah.
As he saw him as a threat to him immediately, and that became his number one thing to destroy and to get rid of was this.
And they think that's his focus. I mean, but I think that's a turning point. Like the moment he killed someone that he has no idea that, the only thing he knows about this guy is he's a detective. That's the only thing he knows.
Yep.
He doesn't know if he's a bad guy or a good guy, did not do a crime. But the mere fact that his authority was challenged, he just dropped him. Right? So I think that's the point where Buddy lost his morals and humanity. I mean, it's all about me now, baby. I don't care. Yep. You die. I'm cool. 100%. You not. Yeah, man.
So now it's Kira versus L. The game is afoot. The battle of wits has begun. L has taken the first W. Light has taken the first L.
And you should see his face. Oh my God, priceless. And we can't forget about Hot Topic Demon God on the back laughing his ass off. Telling like, ooh, buddy, he got you.
He got you good.
He got you good, bud.
Yeah. So with episode 2 finished, I believe you have some rules you wanted to read.
Yes. So going back. So we've been talking about this notebook that is a murder machine. Okay. But Hot Topic Demon God was kind enough to write the instructions in English, and he has a reason for it. And pretty smart, actually.
Yep.
Pretty smart. I'm impressed. Because he said, oh, English is the most used language in the human world. So
whoever finds
I'm gonna write it in English. So there's 2 parts on this one. Okay. So part 1, bullet 1. The human whose name is written in this note shall die. That's it. Bullet 2. This note will not take effect unless the writer has a person's face in their mind when writing his or her name. Therefore, people sharing the same name will not be affected. So it's a good fail-safe, right? It's also for accuracy. 3rd bullet. If the cause of death is written within 40 seconds of writing the person's name, it will happen. Mm-hmm. So you have that window. If the cause of death is not specified, the person will simply die of a heart attack. So either A, Light was lazy to think of ways to kill the person, or he just skipped this content. After writing the cause of death, details on the death should be written in the next 6 minutes and 40 seconds. Now the funny thing is, it didn't mention what would happen if you don't write the details. And then here's a part 2. This note shall become the property of the human world. Once it touches the ground it arrives in the human world, the owner of the note can recognize the image and voice of its original owner. God of Death, your Hot Topic buddy over there. The human who uses this note can neither go to heaven nor hell. Doesn't say if you're going to go to purgatory, but I don't know. I think that's going. No, it doesn't say where, but I think purgatory is it's better than both after you've done that, I guess.
I mean, yeah, I guess so.
Yeah. So yeah. Also, we have some trivia here. In the English dub of the episode, Lights reads the first rule of using the Death Note as, the human whose name is written in this notebook shall die.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The daylight sees the notebook fall from the sky. His teacher is discussing the extinction of certain species due to
That's
them
right.
not being fit for their surroundings. So that's
Super
straight up
deep
foreshadowing,
foreshadowing.
bud.
Yup.
Yep.
Are
Can
you ready to
you
get into episode 3?
Yeah. Well, you know what?
Okay.
Can you think about this? Like, can you imagine if light would end up working in the government, let's say for I don't know, like ICBC in Canada, issuing driver's license? Could you
It's
imagine that?
funny you mentioned that. I
Damn.
actually can imagine somebody who with megalomaniacal tendencies working a government job. As somebody who works for the local government,
Yeah,
I can see it. I can
it's
believe it.
scary, dude. I mean, like
It's
it makes
spooky.
sense. Like, getting into the police force is not they really profile you. They dig it deep, like
Deep.
deep. Like,
Deep.
yeah, which makes
Even
sense.
deeper.
I mean, this guy just had a notebook, and yeah,
That's all it takes.
this happens.
Whew. So,
Oh, this guy. All
episode
right,
3.
episode 3.
Episode 3.
Oh God, this episode.
Dealings. So, if I'm not mistaken, this episode primarily focuses on. Oh, never mind. No, it doesn't. Okay, so it opens up in Light's room. Him and Ryuk are talking. He's just reeling from the fact that L got him, and got him really, really good. And so
He,
at this
he,
point,
he doesn't know how to take an L, bud.
he does not know how to take an L. Kira is a really big name, and unfortunately, lots of people are starting to take credit for being Kira. So it opens up at the in the police station, where you're seeing that more and more people are starting to uh, more deaths are happening, and more people are trying to take credit for Kira, or say they know who Kira is, or all these other things from the police perspective. Um, and so this is again another one of those big brain L moments. He uses the time of death and days of the week that people are dying, and the fact that it's only on evenings and weekends
Yeah.
that people are dying, to surmise that Kira might be a student,
You know what?
and
Like
that
now
his
that
sense of justice is very black and white
yeah,
because he's only
you know,
killing criminals.
now that you mentioned that, I remember. I'm not sure which episode is it. He was talking to Hot Topic God, and the God mentioned that, oh, how come you're not doing some more? And Light specifically went through his regime, like his schedule. So, he has a very structured life.
Yep.
I don't know, maybe signs of a psychopath or sociopath. I'm not sure. But, like it's a very, very to the T followed schedule. Like, oh, I need to
Mm-hmm.
sleep because I need to like focus. Oh, I need to do this. I can only murder during this. Oh, you know what? Murder's fun, but nap time.
Nap
God
time.
damn
And
this
so
guy.
L posits that Kira, whomever Kira might be, is aiming to be some kind of a godlike figure. Again, this is all speculation at this point. This is all
Hmm.
just L's deductions. Like, he hasn't actually done much in the way of research yet. This is just what is known, like what he's been able to figure out. So it really goes to show um his detective chops right away. Now, something that's kind of happened is that now that people are aware that somebody is, watching them and passing judgment on them, violent crimes have gone down. And so I love the I love that it talks more about um with Matsuda, who's the young cop who brings that up. He's like, I don't condone what he's doing, but it's kind of working. At that
It's
point, Elle wonders if the people who died had their photos published.
That being said, it's also like the duality of man, right? I mean, Buddy
Mm-hmm.
here is like, oh, we have this mysterious killer guy who's killing all bad people, like murderers and criminals and stuff like that. Well, like the common masses would think like, oh, someone's cleaning up the street. So, I'm pretty sure his persona Kira is very good with the publicity. Like, I think his public rating is pretty damn high,
Well, that's just
right?
it, and
That's just
it's
it. But then
and
again,
so.
it's a blurred line because he's basically going vigilante, right?
Mm-hmm.
The buddy cop's not wrong. Like, oh, crime rates went down, but like,
But like the way it's happening
yeah,
isn't right.
yeah, yeah.
So Light
I
is still trying to keep up appearances, and it's time for dinner. Dad comes home, and oh man, this was actually the last page of volume 1 of the manga. When you learn that the police chief is Light's father.
Yep.
And what's crazy is that's like the beginning of the episode. So
Yep.
casual conversation comes up at dinner. It's just, typical dinner conversation. But you can see that his father, that dad is real stressed out about the case.
Man, who would it be? Holy crap.
And like, so Light is also a master hacker that he hacks into his dad's computer to get police files.
Like we talked about. Public government official.
Yeah, right.
Information.
And so,
show me that
with
sweet public information.
Yeah. So with the police suspecting a student, Light, what does it say? I can't read my writing. So Light hatches a new plan to keep the killing going. In writing the time of death to be every hour on the hour, he shows the police that Kira can kill whenever he wants because he's realized that they think he's a student.
Because of the patterns.
So he does that, essentially. What's the next thing? So then L immediately realizes that he can decide the time of death and kill from a distance, and also realizes that Kira has access to police info.
Yep.
So now L knows that Kira is involved with the police, which again, he's already pulling that noose. Like he's already figuring this out a lot quicker than maybe we would have expected.
A lot quicker than the world police.
A lot quicker than the world police. And so so L suggests that so Light suspects that L is starting to figure him out. And if L so this is where things are going to get a bit weedy, and you're going to find this on the show going forward, is that the actual explanations to what's going on is going to be a lot more complicated than it seems. Because the show does get complicated. And this is what's so great about the show is the cerebral level of the back and forth and the figuring out of what's going on. So Light knows that L knows that he's involved with the police, which means that L is going to seek outside help from outside the Japanese police force. Yep. So L brings in the FBI, and Light knows that L is going to bring in the FBI, which leads to
internal conflict
in the police, which Light is banking on. He's expecting them to just feud amongst each other, and if they're so focused on not trusting each other, they're not going to notice what he's doing.
I can't move on how a 17-year-old will think about like, oh, they're on to me. He's going to bring the FBI to investigate the Japanese police. ooh, the Japanese police not gonna like that.
Yeah,
Ooh,
it's
they're
a little
gonna.
bit contrived, isn't it?
So I'm like, how smart is this bastard?
That's
Like,
just it. That's the
what?
whole point.
Like, who raised you? Like, why are you like that? What's going
Why are
on?
you like this?
No, why
Okay.
are you like this, man?
Okay. So that conversation happens,
Hmm.
and they go upstairs into Light's room. So Light goes back to his room after dinner.
Man, you
After
have to read the line that
explaining,
Light said before going out, like, leaving dinner. That line is like, mm.
did I write it down?
He told his dad. He said something to his dad, man.
I didn't write it down.
He said, Papa, Papa, if Kira kills you, I will avenge you. I will be the best detective in the world
Does he
and
say
kill
that?
Kira in your name.
Wait,
I'm
does
like,
he actually
yeah, dude.
say that?
Yeah. I'm like, man, this guy's a dick.
He's a master manipulator, is what he is.
Yeah, I was watching it I was lying in bed. I was like, I had to sit up and like, you're a dick.
You're a
You're a dick,
bad
man.
person. You're a bad apple.
You're bad. Oh, dude.
Okay, so it's after this conversation, Light's up in his room, that him and Ryuk are chatting about how we learn, and that's when we learn about the eyes of the Shinigami. Essentially, Shinigami, or death gods, hot topic death gods, if you're following along, are able to see a person's name and their remaining lifespan above their heads at all times, meaning that they're able to do their jobs very effectively.
Yep.
So he offers that deal to Light, saying, hey, Light,
I'll hook you up.
I'll hook you up, but all you have to do is give me half of your remaining life.
Ooh.
And that's when we also learn why Shinigamis write names in their death notes. This is when we learn about the ability for them to extend their lives via taking life from humans.
They keep the excess.
Because they're so like afraid to die. So as long as they're writing a name in their death note every few years, they can essentially live forever. So there's a deal with the devil theming, and that's when the episode ends.
It's funny how Light declined that deal, man. Remember what he said?
Well, hang on, we're not there yet.
Okay. Such a smug little shit.
And so episode 4, Pursuit. Now, this episode really is really well paced in terms of the fact that it kind of like, oh man, it just takes off and goes. So immediately, Light looks at him and says, there's no way in hell I'm taking that deal. The longer I can be Kira, the better. So like, nah,
I'm gonna stay here for a while. I'm gonna be
I don't
gone.
need your deal. I don't need your deal. And so, Light won't take the deal, and he starts, and then we see the other death gods are talking crap about Ryuk. Doesn't really matter that much. But Light mentions that he might become a Shinigami if he keeps this up. Because he's like, I'm already doing the work of a Shinigami, except I'm not getting any other reward for it, which is kind of interesting.
He did say that.
So
I would have taken that deal if it was for wings. What a dick.
He's like, yeah, if you let me fly, then sure. But at that point, it won't even matter.
What a dick.
And at that point, and he says that like, hey, maybe if I were Shinigami and I was in the Shinigami realm, maybe I would try to make it better too. He's like, I'll just make it better, like I'm making here better. And it's
he's never been there.
What a dick. No idea. But at that point, Ryuk kind of starts warming up to Light. He's kind of like, maybe this kid ain't so bad.
I like this kid.
Because Ryuk Ryuk made a serious point while they were talking earlier in the last episode to say, like, hey man, I'm not on your side. Like, we're not friends. I don't like you. I didn't choose you. You just happened to pick up the notebook, and now we're kind of stuck together.
I'm just
Now,
bored.
as I am your roommate, I might have the odd thing to say from time to time, but I'm not on your side. I'm not on L's side. I'm on nobody's side.
Yep.
Like, I don't actually care who wins in this battle. Like, it doesn't make a difference to me. And so now, Light gets, so flash forward back to where we are. Light gets a little experimental with the Death Note killings. He wants to see exactly how far he can push that clause about writing the circumstances before death. And it goes kind of exactly as planned. One person draws a pentagram in blood before they die. One person, what is he? I didn't actually write this down. But essentially he's trying to, he's experimenting.
He's messing around to see like the limitations of the Death Note, right? Because it did stipulate that you can write the cause of death and you can manipulate the person. So he was trying.
And so immediately L picks up. He's like, oh, he's experimenting. Obviously, that's what he's doing. Like, he's obviously testing. He doesn't know his powers. He must have come into his powers pretty recently because this is all brand new to him. And it's incredible to me that at no point does L not believe that that what's happening is even a possibility.
No.
Like, he immediately believes in whatever the evidence tells him without any form of like disbelief that like this is impossible, there's no way this could happen, this isn't real, this is a hoax. Like, at no point does he believe that. He takes it seriously from the get-go and begins figuring it out right away.
He's like based. Everything is based.
So Light's got a plan after realizing that he's being followed by an FBI agent. And this is so just crazy. So he realizes he's being followed by an FBI agent.
He doesn't know.
And he says
that guy's an FBI agent.
No, he doesn't know he's an FBI. So he knows he's being followed.
Yeah.
We are really bad at spoiling the punchline to our bits. We have got to get better at this.
Yep. He knows he's being followed.
You know, and we're just excited. Okay, that's all it is. We're just excited to share the cool parts about the show. And so he knows he's being followed. And so he's like, oh, what does an 18-year-old boy do on Saturday? He goes on dates. He's like, oh, I think I've still got one or two people I could call. Calls a girl up. Immediately he's like, hey, you want to go out? She says, yeah, absolutely.
Oh my God, Light called me. Oh my God.
Light called me. Oh my God.
I'm going to get it.
Like, you know, you wouldn't know to look at me, but I'm actually pretty popular with the ladies.
What a fucking smug asshole.
Like, he's such... Yeah.
Tinder does not affect... He is Tinder.
He is Tinder. So, Light has a plan. And he decides to exhibit some sort of control over people before they die. So they're on this date.
Can I insert a foreshadow there?
Just... Okay, sure, Ollie. Insert a foreshadow.
So the day before this happened, there was a store, I think, that got held up by a guy. A twitchy guy. So, you know, your typical textbook, hands up, give me all your money. And apparently he didn't get any cash, so he ran away. And that was on the news. Light sees that, but he didn't kill the guy.
Okay.
He knows he's a bad guy, but he didn't kill him.
He didn't kill him.
Yep.
So.
Brings us to present time, Scott, telling us about the date. Go ahead.
So they're on this date. They're going to Space World, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And they're on the bus, and so Light gets on, like, they're sitting in the back of the bus, and this guy, the guy that's following them, gets on the bus and sits behind him. Next stop, this criminal gets on the bus, or this other guy gets on the bus, pulls out a gun, holds it to the driver, and says, take me to Space World, call them and tell them that, call Space World, tell them to have their cash ready, and to meet me 2 stops from there. And Light scribbles on a piece of paper, shows it to the girl, making sure the guy behind him can see it as well. The guy who's following him can see him. And he says, and on the paper it says, "I'm going to go for the gun." The FBI agent said, the
guy behind him.
The guy behind him says, "No, don't do it.
No bueno,
That's too
dude.
dangerous. Let me handle it." And Light says, "Well, how the hell are we supposed to? Why should we trust you? This is totally common where 2 people get on a bus and jack buses together. Like, this is a thing that happens."
Yeah, like one guy gets on earlier, the other guy gets on a different station. So one guy watches the back. So he's like, maybe you're in on it with this guy robbing the bus, and you're just keeping tabs on people from the back. So if something happens, you can, pop us.
You're together.
Yeah.
And so at that point, Light says, "Well, I need proof." And he says, "I'm an FBI agent from America."
Flashed him his badge. Picture and name right there.
And
reads.
Right before he had gotten on the bus, he says, "Oh, this kid's obviously not Kira.
Yeah.
I'll finish up today and I'll go home."
Yeah, I'm gonna watch this for a couple more hours, and he's not. No, it can't be him. He was gonna dismiss him. Like, this kid's not it.
100%.
Yep.
But now Light knows who has been following him.
Yeah.
And so at that point, Light drops a note on the floor.
On purpose.
And he goes to pick it up, catches the attention of the bus jacker. Bus jacker says, "Hey, no, don't pick that up." And he goes and picks up the note and he reads it. And it's nothing. It's a useless message.
It's a doodle about their space trips, whatever.
I'm so excited to go to Space World with this on this date.
And guess what happened?
Suddenly the bus jacker sees somebody in the back that he didn't notice before. A very tall, a very lanky, and a very bug-eyed Ryuk.
Hot topic Death God. Out of nowhere.
Because the note was a piece of the Death Note. And now he sees Ryuk and starts shooting at him. Obviously, bullets don't do anything.
Nope.
Has a heart attack and dies of fright. We find out after that happens that Light had planned the whole thing.
Gets off the bus, gets ran. So bus pulls over.
That's what happens.
So bus jacker unloaded a whole clip at Ryuk. Didn't do shit. Freaking out. Bus stops. Get off the bus. He get mowed down by a car.
Yup. And in the end, Light is aware of Ray Pember. End of episode. Oh, man. So that was just the first 4 episodes of Death Note. And if you've been following along for this show, now we've been recording this now for about 2 hours. Well, hang on, about an hour and a half.
We've been an hour and a half? Damn.
It has been, an hour and a half. So, look, if you've been following along with this show, and you've been on the edge of your seat wanting to know what's going on, if we didn't totally spoil each time something exciting was going to happen by saying something that shouldn't have been said just yet, you got to get on this show.
Watch the show.
Next week, we'll be covering episodes 4 to 8 of Death Note. You can hop on it. It's on Netflix. Jump in at episode 4. Watch along with us. And next week, we're going to get into episodes 4 to 8.
5 to 8.
5 to 8. Sorry, 5 to 8. I'm just so excited. We
can't stress the emotions that you would feel. There are people who doesn't like anime, but just give it a watch.
No. This is an anime for people who don't like anime.
Yeah. I think that's it.
Not a big fan of anime.
Watch this one.
We watched Death Note together. I wouldn't say she liked it, but she had to finish it.
It keeps you. it hooks you. Like I watched it all before, but I was watching the first 4 episodes last night. I was like, yeah, mm,
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna get me more of these.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's pretty good.
It's
Again,
fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us on this first episode of Papercuts, a Death Note Recap Podcast. My name is
yeah,
Scott. I can be found on the internet if you just search Walkstar or Walkstar with a Z. If you're watching us on Twitch, you know I'm already here. If you're watching this on YouTube, you know it's already here. And if you're finding this on Spotify, you can check out the rest of what I do at twitch.tv/walkstars or on my Instagram at walkstars if you want to get in touch with me. Ollie, where can people
yeah.
find you if they want to talk to you?
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram. Let me just get my Instagram handle really quick here, like an old man. Extra Rice, one word underscore Inc. Extra Rice Incorporation.
Extra
So
Rice
if you have,
Incorporated.
yeah, so if you have any questions, like suggestions about the show, how we can make it better for you guys, like any
100%.
other shows you want us to touch, we're open about it. It's not limited to anime or anything. We're
No.
open to any suggestions, anything under the sun, and we hope to hear from you.
Excellent. So, thanks again for listening, and we'll catch you next week on the latest episode of Papercuts, a Death Note
Yeah.
Recap Podcast. Take care.
Cheers.